Ah, coffee on a Thursday morning. All I'm missing is a little chocolate mixed in the middle.
Chocolate.
Ah, in your coffee.
I like the cinnamon spice.
Do you remember the Sanka brand of coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Do they not have that anymore?
I drink all the fancy stuff now. I'm ridiculous.
Oh, he's redonkulous.
I think Sanka was good in the 70s, so it must have caused cancer. Everything did back then.
It
I know
probably
they
did.
have Folgers
That's why you
now.
knew it was good for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
True.
That's
True.
right. Absolutely.
Good morning,
Good morning, Maniacs.
Maniac.
Maniac. One Maniac. Hi, that one Maniac fan.
Whatever.
Okay,
There's going to be a lot of maniacs.
that's right.
Do you guys want to be introed or not?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Can you intro us, please?
You took away my thunder.
That's
I
why you were
feel-
looking at me with those eyes that
I
were
was.
staring right through me.
So,
I'm like I'm thunderless.
so good morning.
Well, I don't
Good
know
morning,
about
everybody.
that.
We missed this. This is why we're still taking our caffeine. Let's go take two. One
Take
for
two.
the intro. One, two,
Thunderless.
go
Hey,
for the intro.
did you just do a pump of a fist?
I might have.
I think you did, Navy boy.
I did.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is Thursday morning, and guess what? That's right. Your two favorite financial gurus, Gayle and Steve, and Moneylinc, brought to you by Interlinc. Here they are.
I was ready for you to say, "Here's Johnny." I'm dating myself for sure.
Right, absolutely.
Well, if you'll change your name, I can make that happen. we should have the maniacs vote on whether I should intro you or not.
I think I'm going to answer that for you.
Oh, look at you.
It's yes.
It's a yes.
Yes. So, did you know that tacos are more important than pumpkin spice?
Well, how could they not be? You know, we're in Texas,
And you're Mexican.
That's right. So how could tacos not be? What, you know, it's like pumpkin spice didn't even show up.
And did you also know that nachos are just tacos that don't have their life together?
Yeah, that's why you kind of bring them together.
Yeah.
It's all about community
Well,
there.
whatever.
Community, you know.
All right. So,
My nachos are, yeah.
we're supposed to be talking about what financial stuff, right?
Not anymore. I'm hungry. And that's our show, everybody. We're going to go get some
You can get
nachos.
some breakfast tacos.
Everybody gets the coffees. We're going to start off with nachos this morning. Just kind of get you going.
All right. So, this is Moneylinc, brought to you on JP Kathy and the Crew Network. And we are sponsored by Brandon Hager, who is our Medicare specialist, who's absolutely excellent. So, if you need navigating that sea of what I call the alphabet soup with part A, B, C, D, Medigap, Medicare, Medicare Advantage, all the, I guess there's also G and F.
Yeah,
and
WXYZ.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just,
then, you know, go
it's a
ahead
government program. They'll add 2 letters, 4 letters,
This is
12
true.
letters.
This is true.
You know, all I
So-
know is it can get confusing.
So go ahead and contact who we refer to, who is Brandon Hager, 940-781-0354, or 59, excuse me. I'm going to do that again.
Yep.
940-781-0359. Well, we've got exciting stuff today.
We do.
So did you know that there's a state that's actually considering, the lawmakers are actually considering setting a 54% tax rate?
54.
54.
It looks like we're going to get more people moving to Texas.
But
I hope it's not Texas.
No, it's not Texas, but you guys need to write into the comments which state you think that is. Then we're going to have Steve Swami moment, which is a question
the
that's,
Swami moment.
yes, I know.
Oh, it's my favorite.
That
Guys,
crystal ball, I'm going to tell you something.
What's
They
that?
must like you. Did you go cancel that order? It didn't come in yet.
As far as you know, I never touched anything as far as that crystal ball
Yeah.
showing up. I was absolutely not.
I think you canceled it. I'm going to have to go look now. So today's question is from Danielle Furman. So she's got an RMD question that's really good. We're going to answer that for you.
Okay.
Did you know, let's see, due to COVID-19 that you can take money out of your 401k or IRA before 59 and a half without a penalty?
As long as it's COVID emergency related, which it's like everything is. They wrote those laws so vague, you know, with a lot of the stuff. If you have been impacted by in any capacity at all by COVID,
Right.
then you're eligible.
Right.
I don't know of anybody
So-
that hasn't been. So
We'll
be
go
there.
through the actual wording for you.
Mhm.
And then rule of 72, I know Fred had asked for that. So it's in other financial rules of thumb.
okay.
That sort of thing. So let's go ahead and attack the CARES Act. the individuals affected by COVID-19 that can withdraw $100,000 out of your 401k, 403bs, IRAs. What else?
Of those items. Well, one of the things is, and we know about this, is unless it's an absolute emergency, and this is your last thing, the last bucket you have to tap. You don't have a choice. By all means, please do not touch your retirement accounts. So even though the government gave this flexibility,
unless you're already retired.
Yeah, well, that's true. Then you don't have a choice. Even then, be very cautious how you touch your retirement accounts and you empty them out too fast.
This is in regard to people that are under 59 and a half.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So some of them may be retired, but that's still the general rule.
Well, yeah. But they waived the 10% penalty for distributions that come out in 2020 due to COVID-related issues. There's no mandatory withholding requirements either, because usually it's a 20% withholding requirement also.
Where they withhold the taxes when they say withholding?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Before, generally when people pull this money out, before the COVID exception, you're talking about like a 30% tax hit.
Yeah. Between
the penalty and the taxes you would pay.
Right.
So,
Think about how long it takes to get a 30% return.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So then the distribution can be spread out as far as taxes go for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So you can spread out the tax penalty over 3 years rather than just 1 year.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And then what else with the CARES Act? The RMD stuff, we kind of went over that last time.
Mm-hmm. We did. So for those of you that may have not listened or tuned in on our last show, it's not listened, but the RMDs, required minimum distributions, for those people that are of a certain age in retirement, would be 70 and a half or 72, depending on how this law, because the tax law just recently changed, and so there's going to be people that grandfathered in the old rules, some people in the new rules. But when you hit this certain point, whether you want to or not, you have to pull money out of these accounts. It's a required minimum distribution. And if you don't, it's a very, very large tax penalty, up to 50%. Well, with COVID, they basically waived that. And you can go ahead and you don't have to do that for this year. So that was a big help a little bit. They're trying to do everything they can to kind of either provide money for people or prevent them from saving onto what they have. But with the 401ks...
So you couldn't turn 70 and a half by January 1st, 2020.
Was that the break line?
Yeah. So, and that also, if you got the inherited IRA before January 1st, 2020, then the old rules still apply.
Right. And then we're dealing with that in the office, when we deal with clients. And the first thing we got to do is double check, are you under the old program or the new program?
Right.
To make sure so that they don't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. So then we'll go over the qualifications.
Well, one of the things before we goes on the qualifications on the 401ks, let's say they take the money out because they think they need it, and that can happen. You've got $100,000 in your 401k,
right? And
you ran into trouble, and you say, I need 20 grand, but then they found out they didn't need it. Are they able to put it back?
Yes.
See. That's
good. You can
good.
put it back before 2022, I think.
2022?
Yeah.
So that's good, because that would be horrible if you could take it out and then you were stuck. Mm-hmm. So they gave that flexibility.
So basically, if you had to be quarantined, which honestly, didn't everybody quarantine?
Right.
I mean, to a degree.
Except JP.
So it
JP's a rebel. He didn't. He just.
No, I think he did.
That was it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a rebel without a cause. Me and my 63-year-old ailing father.
That's right.
We went out to all the strip clubs and dance clubs. Yeah, not.
Well, and during quarantine, there was no waiting line, so that was pretty good.
What, him up on stage stripping with his cane?
Yes.
It was fun. He looked like Santa Claus stripping.
Absolutely. And so everybody with that image that they have in their head to start off the day.
Gayle did just not give us a Thursday. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning. We're your money show.
Now that would be fun.
That's it.
Okay, you guys are canceled. I'm bringing a new show on. You'll need to get a big chain with a big dollar sign, and you need to dress more skimpy.
Yeah.
No.
Not
And
happening.
got a money show. Ho, ho, ho. No?
That's right.
I think I need to go back down.
Okay, we're gonna tone it down there.
Bye.
Oh, God.
You know, I don't want to talk about RMDs anymore. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
Let's get serious. People.
Okay.
Those people's finances. There we go.
So who qualifies?
So what's in your mind right now? What's the image are you holding right now?
I can't get it out.
Okay.
Ho, ho, ho.
He's right there.
I know. I can't get it out. So
We could have a little gun that shoots dollar bills like that.
Oh, yeah. Like this? This would be good.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
This would be good.
Okay.
All right. So anybody that had their hours cut, having a job offer rescinded,
Okay.
being unable to work because of the lack of child care,
All right.
slashing operating hours, shutting down a business due to the outbreak. So basically, I think anybody could pretty much fit into these
Yeah, they
qualifications.
They try to
They
make
made
it
them
pretty
very broad.
very, very broad.
Anybody that needed to go to the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just trying to get
You
by
heard
in
about
life.
those women in Las Vegas that like they started doing a drive-through strip because they couldn't go inside.
No, I'm married. I don't find out. I don't pay
Whatever.
attention to any of those type of storylines. What is it, dear wife, that you were looking at and found out
that I was looking at.
online as we continue on? So
But you were in the Navy.
yeah, I was.
I think that
but not
overrules the
married.
being
Yeah,
married
yeah,
thing, though.
okay.
Like,
There
I
we
you
don't
guys are, seamen, so.
Yeah, but that was
Lord.
you're talking about global exploration.
I think he watched a lot of his other friends.
And he's been watching. Yeah.
Yeah. Do some
No.
global exploration.
No, no, because sometimes if you're not careful out there overseas, you could, in
You can get STDs.
no, you get a gift that keeps on giving. I wasn't
Right.
going to play that game.
No, he wasn't.
No.
So I have a question.
I'll
though.
laugh at my friend that got the gift that kept
If
on
you
giving.
are overseas, how do you handle your RMDs?
Well, it depends. Well, are you talking about if you were living overseas?
Yes,
those
like
kind of
let's say I joined the service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even another form. Let's say I joined military service as a teacher
Right.
and went over to a base like in Okinawa
Okay.
and was teaching English
Mm-hmm.
on base. But before that, I was an engineer with Raytheon or what have you, and so I have the
Yeah.
wealth.
Yeah.
You know, can I still monitor that? Does that change my bracketing at all? What does that do? And again, truly, what is an RMD?
No. When you're talking about that with the required minimum distribution, let's say you're stationed in Okinawa.
Yeah, let's go ahead and define
yeah.
what RMD is, required minimum distribution. We don't
Yeah,
want anybody
so-
making
so-
that whatever they
yeah.
want to make up out.
And at this point, under these rules, let's say you're not grandfathered in, you would be teaching on a military base, but you're 72 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not part of the military per se, but you still are on an American. The Okinawan base is still going to be in American soil, so that can kind of make it easy for you. And the distributions will still apply. You're just living there, but all of the same rules and structures as if you were in the States. So it gets
So go through step by step. Like if you have, let's say you need to take out you have $100,000
right.
and you need to take out 1,000. How does the RMD work? What do you actually do?
As far as the withdrawal?
Mhm.
Well, the first step, it's pretty straightforward. It's when that time starts coming in in that tax year, it's a withdrawal. It's a withdrawal form.
Mhm.
Usually it's going to be either, and it doesn't matter. This is another thing. I really want to be clear on this. As far as the required minimum distributions, this is a law that's mandated by the IRS.
Correct.
So people, when they think of their retirement accounts, they think of investment accounts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as stock market stuff.
Right.
And this can happen. And then they forget that this certain age demographic might also have annuities,
Mm-hmm.
which is a different type of financial product, but it's still labeled as an IRA.
Right.
And
or
so
it could be a 403B or
that target is
Right.
still
That's a
tax
retirement
deferred.
account.
It's still a retirement account.
Correct.
And they might forget that money has to come out of those accounts also. They're just
Right.
focused on their mutual funds or whatever they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so please don't forget that. If it's, look at the labeling of the type of financial product you have. And by
Right.
that, you're talking 401k, 403bs, because that's how the IRS looks at it.
Mm-hmm. So within those accounts, how does it look? I mean, what do you do when you take an RMD? What does that mean?
Well, there's going to be a formula, and it will change every year. A certain percentage has to come out every year. That's okay. And with that, let's say you have $100,000 and the formula is 5% has to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just make it simple. So $5,000 has to be withdrawn.
Okay.
And when that's pulled out, you know that deadline's coming.
Mm-hmm. What's the deadline?
Well, it used to be April 1st.
Correct.
Now,
if it was before January 1st, 2020.
This is where it gets a little dicey, guys.
Right.
You know, are you grandfathered on the old rules or under the new rules?
Right.
If you're under the old rules, the deadline is April 1st, which
To take the money out.
To take the money out, which is ridiculous. I mean, you think about that. You know, when are taxes due?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes, April 15th.
Right.
Now, the government's going to not say, no, that makes too much sense for the old rules. We're going to make sure that your money deadline is...
They're trying to catch you so that you have that 50% penalty.
Yeah, it's April Fool's Day.
Right.
You know, so that's the deadline. But on the new program, they went ahead and simplified it and said it's April 15th is when this money is due.
All right. Well,
so
this is a good time for Steve Swami moment because the question is regarding RMDs. So Danielle Furman said, when we're discussing RMDs...
Mm-hmm.
Yay, Danielle.
Right.
When we're discussing RMDs, Danielle wanted to know if you get an inherited 401k.
Okay.
Does the government take out taxes when it's distributed? And how do I figure out how much to take out each year?
Okay, now was it Danielle?
Danielle.
Okay, Danielle. It's going to depend on what rules you have when you received it.
Right.
Is she under the old program, Gayle, or under the new?
I'm going to guess it's probably the old program.
All right.
But so basically, if you had inherited the IRA before January 1st, 2020, or the 401k, then Steve's going to go through what to do.
Yeah, and one of the things that's nice under the old program is you basically can stretch out your distributions over your lifetime. And
right.
Now, the term is called stretch IRA, but just forget IRA, think retirement account. In this case, you have a 401k. That's how it's labeled. So you have to pull money out regardless of your age. You can't wait until you retire. I'm assuming she's...
When it's inherited.
Yeah, when it's an inherited IRA, I'm assuming that she's not of retirement age. She's, younger.
I don't think she is, no.
Okay. So, and that's the thing that you have to be very careful of. You do have to take money out every year, and that formula changes. That's just a certain percentage. But basically, that 401k is designed over your lifetime to be emptied out by the time you're 85.
Right.
The government didn't want any of these retirement accounts becoming multi-generational.
Let's make it really clear, though. Okay.
Yep.
When she says when it's distributed, the true answer is yes. But does distributed to her mean when you get the inherited IRA, or does it mean when she's taking money out, when she's taking a distribution? I'm thinking she's saying when the inherited IRA gets to her and she's the beneficiary of it. Does she have to take out the RMD, and does the government take it out right then?
As far as taking
Taxes.
money out of the account? No, not at that point. It's when she actually takes a distribution.
Correct.
That's when taxes will be acquired. And then the formula is going to be a little bit different. It'll take the when, like, let's say it was her parent that gave it to her, that she inherited from, when he passed away.
Right.
Then they take what her date of birth is, and then they look at the rate of return on the account, and then from that it comes up with this little formula factor.
It's the account balance, the owner's age when they passed away.
Correct.
The beneficiary age, so the age when the person received it.
Right.
The age the person that received it, or the beneficiary, is now, the interest that was on that account that year. Yeah. Then that comes up to your number.
Yeah. So that was pretty crystal clear, wasn't it? When we took
That's
the
the
formula,
government.
see, there it
There's
is.
the government
so it's
for you.
straightforward. And then, and just to, as far, just to let you know, JP, as far as the monitor that we have right here, there's no signal. Just to let you know. So so
You're still going out.
that's okay.
For whatever reason, technology.
It's technology.
It's kind of like money.
That's right.
You're guessing
We
sometimes.
got gremlins.
Exactly.
I mean, it's about Halloween, so
That's right.
got gremlins.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the critical importance of that is please, please, please don't forget to take the money out
Every year.
Don't rely just on the advisory firm
Right.
to notify you that they should be doing that.
So more than likely, if you're with a financial advisor, you can call them and say, hey, how much do I take out this year?
Exactly.
If you're the account where it's being held, you could call them. Sometimes they'll help you, sometimes they won't.
Right.
So we have been with several. We've worked with. They didn't get the help, which is part of why they came to us.
Yeah, because it was like 5 years later.
Right.
They were never notified.
Right.
And that was a substantial tax penalty. And
so this is why it's important to work with an advisor. This is the kind of thing that we do. So how do they get in hold of us if they want to?
Well, one of the things about that, and you're right, and we try and make this show lighthearted and and funny and but
it can be really dull talking about finances.
It really
so we have to put some stuff in there.
It really can, but it's also very serious. So because you don't want to be stuck in these positions, where you're unnecessarily losing the money that you've either inherited or earned because you didn't know how the rules were playing out. And that's, in life, that's really what kind of gets us. It's like, especially with the finance and the money stuff, it's almost like as you go down the line, we say this all the time, but it's important to understand whether these financial decisions, buying a house, how the RMDs work, all these things, you're going down this road and you're learning the rules as you go. And that can be an extremely expensive and painful way to learn the rules of the game.
I need you to wake up a little bit more because I asked you a question.
I know.
Okay.
I'm getting to it.
Get to it.
So one of the things when you're working with a financial professional, a financial planner like Gayle and myself, is that's why we kind of want to go into the going through all the steps and processes of this. How can they get a hold of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually heard me.
I actually did.
Okay. Well,
I
it was
actually
10
did.
minutes later.
I actually did.
Well, as they say, better late than never.
So when you go
She
through
didn't
this,
buy
guys-
that. She didn't buy that at all.
No, she didn't.
Ooh, I tried, Steve.
As
Good
we
luck.
go through this,
Good
if
luck.
any of you out there watching wonders if we're really married, great example right there, everybody.
We're going to take a commercial break as
We'll take
Steve
a
bleeds.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
So,
You're going to have to
Hey, it
bleed
is
on
Halloween.
so with that, you can contact us and contact Gayle. Yeah, email.
Contact me.
That's right. Just call her. Gayle at Interlinc with a C, financial.com.
How do you spell my name?
Gayle.
Good job.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
yeah. Okay.
Did I get a good boy?
Good boy.
I get a good boy. I get a good boy. You got my name. I get a good boy.
Phone number?
214-778-5645.
That's 214-778-5645 or Gayle, Gayle, at Interlinc with a C, financial.com.
And when they come into our office, normally what do we do? Gayle,
What do you mean, what do we do?
how do we help them? See, now it's right back at her. See how we're doing this?
Lord.
I got a question, Stephen. What did you hope to get out of Gayle? Yeah.
Here we go. So no.
You are a low-functioning male this morning. No offense.
It is. I know.
Good luck. I'm going to leave the show 15 minutes early.
One of the things
so
is,
when you're leaving, I don't watch the trail.
Gayle. I don't do
You don't want to see the blood trail?
No.
No. Gayle.
One of my weaknesses is I don't do anything halfway. If I'm going to go over the cliff, just go
This
out
is
in
true.
flames.
This is true.
You know.
He gets it all out at one time.
So, but here's
No,
my question, though. In all
yeah,
seriousness,
yeah.
how do I keep my money from going out in flames?
And
I mean, you've talked about RMDs. You've talked about
Sure.
COVID-19 relief, which is good. That helps me save some of my money. Like, I'm going to be able to save some of my money because I did. I lost contracts that got rescinded
That's right.
Sure.
by Plano ISD. I mean, I lost $169,000 because of COVID-19.
Right.
And when we came back to revisit it in August, I mean, it just wasn't there to be able to do it. So my company lost
Right.
a sizable amount of money. And so, now that I know that, for sure I'll be able to, because I had to pull out of my annuity,
Exactly.
my IRA. And so,
Especially since you didn't quarantine because you were in the strip club.
right, with Santa Claus.
Yes.
So, but
I'm gonna just keep my mouth
Yeah,
shut because
that's
I
a
really
good
want to
idea.
run with this. Yeah.
But I mean, and so this has
Moving
been
on.
this has been really good though. Like it's helped me understand
Good.
what I can do to protect myself for some of the annuity I took out during that time when we had contracts that went out. Well, like we were supposed to appear at another ISD out Fort Worth, and they already signed the contract,
Right.
And they canceled us,
Well,
because there's nobody going in anymore,
Right.
And so. When we get ready to do this, who do we need to tell this to? Will our financial advisors help us understand that, or who do we need to ask these questions to?
And that's the thing about it. And we go back to the type of financial advisor that you're working with.
That's true.
With how they approach money.
That is very true.
There's going to be some, like the person that you got your annuity from. He might have been, and again, nothing wrong with this. I'm just saying there's different approaches. Some of them might be just strictly insurance licensed, and maybe they don't look at your financial world comprehensively. Like, Brandon, has an insurance license and he's a Medicare specialist.
Right.
But he's not going to walk you down the path of, if a COVID hits, how do I offset that to my family?
That's right.
And then there's going to be people that are investment specialists, and that's their forte.
Right. They
that's their
only
focus
look
point.
at investments and what percent rate of return I can get.
Exactly.
And, that sort of thing.
And you're not going to be asking them about how that annuity works, because they may
Or
be
how
familiar with it.
taxes
but not
impact
licensed.
your whole portfolio,
Might
or
be.
I mean, they're not going to be looking at inflation.
Right.
I mean, all those things.
And one of the things about Gayle and myself is we really, our focal point is to be financial planners. And I know that word kind of hits dead sometimes, like, what is that? But the whole idea is that your money's in different locations. That's when, on the very first show, we talked about these tanks and all these things. Because, JP, emergencies are going to happen. And this year really exemplified it. It really came out of left field for a lot of people. And you're saying, how do I survive this?
Right.
And we're going to be spending money.
That's right. So when you come into the office, if you're married, it would be that both of you that show up because, I'm married. And no matter how you look at one thing, it's going to be different perspectives.
Exactly.
So, I mean, my perspective is always right, but
that's true.
It's going to be different perspectives.
It's I can see something, a different angle, but I don't have any input whatsoever. And I'm okay with that. But at least I was there.
And then we're going to ask a whole bunch of questions. We're going to ask, what's in your retirement accounts?
Yeah.
Do you have annuities? Do you have a pension? Let me see your Social Security statements. I mean, so we're going to go through everything.
Yeah.
Where are you on taxes? Where you bring your tax return? I mean, we're going to go through everything to make sure that we cover. So if we make a recommendation, we don't want to inadvertently hurt something else that we didn't know was in your world. And if we don't know what's in your world, then we could hurt it.
Yeah, so like in your situation, JP, which was great, you had a financial shortfall. You needed to reload that. You were expecting this to come in.
Correct.
To continue on with whatever financial goals you had. And then suddenly that was massively disrupted. But it's still a cash flow puzzle. How do I fill that puzzle? And if you just with a financial planner, if they're doing their job appropriately, it's how do I effectively fill that gap in without destroying the whole plan? But you're just trying to minimize the damage of it, and that's really what in these situations, that's what a financial planner is going to try and do. So, but that was a great question because that affected a lot of people. It just
and I know it's not just me, right? I mean, like I said, a lot of people, and I mean, I've talked to a lot of friends who they've made it so far, but they did what I did.
Yes.
Because we even had more than that expected to come in.
Right.
Exactly.
And then it just was zero. It went from, hey, we're going to make $275,000 in the spring to we made zero.
Yep. And kind of our approach is with Gayle and myself as we look at this, that's why we try to have backup systems in place because something's going to go wrong. We hope it's nothing as catastrophic as let's shut the whole economy down.
Well, I mean, I know one of the first things that we did as a family was discuss how we weren't going to be spending as much money. We were pulling back.
Like a lot
we
of
weren't going to
families.
have any vacations this year.
Yeah. I guess
that sort of thing.
going to make up for that, I'm sure, when everything gets back on track. What you didn't notice was that little smile she gave me. It was hidden behind the microphone, but I caught that. So, but yeah, to kind of go through those things to make sure you can survive it. And then when the emergency passes, yeah, you've been damaged a little bit, but it's not suicidal or
Gotcha.
devastating. You can kind of
That's
build
right.
through that.
That's right. All right. Well, let's do rules of thumb.
The rules of thumb?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's do.
What's our rule of thumb?
Let's do rule of 72 first.
Rule of 72.
So
Okay.
Fred wanted to know if we were going to talk about this. Fred's one of our maniacs. Thank you, Fred.
Okay.
And we are going to discuss that.
Well, we always kind of go with this, that these rules of thumb, these financial principles that are out there, I kind of always say that understand that they're guidelines.
They are.
Just general ideas, general concepts. They're not gospel.
Right.
But what the rule of 72 is if you take the number, let's say you had a question on how long would it take for my money to double? So if I had $100,000 in an account, how long would it take for it to become 200,000? That's where the rule of 72 is. So you take the number 72, divide it by, whatever your interest rate is, let's say 6%.
Right.
And if you said, okay, if I got a 6% rate of return, 72 divided by 6 would be 12.
Yes.
So at that point, the rule of thumb, it should take about 12 years for my 100,000 to become 200,000.
That's correct.
So the interesting thing about these rules of thumb is they become, in our lexicon, they become focused in our world, and we really don't know where they came from.
That's right.
They just know, I heard this principle, where is it?
That's right.
And believe it or not,
In a perfect world, if you could get 6% every single year, year after year, it would work.
it would work. But the other thing is, when did these rules come into play? And this is actually one of the oldest rules out
Yes,
there
it
that I
is.
think we've come across, because that rule, is it Fred that asked the question? Yeah, Fred, believe it or not, that rule's been around since what, 1495? Is it
1496.
1496,
Is that right?
something like that.
Yeah. No, 1494, because it's 2 years after Columbus.
Columbus, so
Yeah.
1494.
1494.
So plus or minus, 500 years. Plus or minus 500 and something years.
Yeah, it's been around for 500 years.
So
almost.
has the world changed a little bit, since that mathematical principle was, initiated? And yeah, the little things have changed a little bit in the past 500 years. So is this an actual, and the reason we kind of go over this is when people don't understand, when you're looking at these rules of thumb, then 12 years pass and suddenly you don't have the 200,000. You go, well, what happened?
Right.
And that's
why isn't 200,000? I mean, the rule of 72 says I should have 200,000 now.
Exactly, and that's why I said it's not gospel. It's not
Right.
locked in.
Right.
And you don't want to fall in that trap. Now, the good news of that is, what's the good part of the principle? Understanding compound interest. Understand it's going to take some time. Getting a general idea of what this means.
Right.
But you hit on it, Gayle, and it was absolutely important. There's also assuming, and here's the assumption. This is where you have mathematics, and then you have the real world as far as human behavior,
Yeah,
which can throw numbers off.
that's true.
And with mathematics, at least when this principle was established, you look at very precise numbering, precise calculations. 1 + 1 will always equal 2.
That's right.
And you and I know in the financial world, it could be anything. It could be +10, -20, because you have to take into account human behavior.
Yes.
When we had, we just talked about this other one with pulling money out of the accounts. Once that money was pulled out, has it affected the compound interest?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So the dynamic changed. So with the rule of 72 in that example, 72 divided by 6, you had touched on this. It's assuming that account gets 6% every year,
Year in,
year out, no matter what.
Right.
And if we could do that and find that account
Life would be good.
and have it be legal, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. If y'all have a legal way to do that, let me
Please.
know.
Contact Gayle at interlinc.financial.com, and then we'll look that over. But one of the things about that rule and why it has to apply to a bigger concept.
Yes.
And that's something called sequence of return.
That's right.
And so one of the things that the best way to show this is through a graphic and how this applies.
Steve's graphic moment.
So when we look at this in the rule of 72, that's
Are you going to get graphic now?
We're going to get graphic.
All right.
Let's see how this goes here.
I like getting graphic.
All right. Yes, well, we know that. That's what I love about you.
All right now.
That's right. Thank you, Better Half,
You're
for
welcome.
being graphic.
You're welcome.
That's right.
You are always welcome to be graphic in my
Absolutely.
presence,
Absolutely.
as long as Steve's around.
Well, you do know
Thank
that
you for that disclaimer.
I've tried to tell autocorrect I don't know how many times it's not duck.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
It's just not.
Goodness
Yes.
gracious, Thursday is not the right time for you to be posting things like that at
No.
like 6:30 in the morning.
Absolutely.
What were you thinking?
It's not duck. That's what I was thinking.
That's right.
Oh,
So here we go. What was I saying again?
You're getting graphic.
I'm getting graphic.
All
Getting
right.
graphic.
Sequence of
Okay.
returns.
All right, Fred. Here's
Let's
your
pull it
question.
back. Pull it
Here's your
back.
question here. All right. So the rule of 72, you take 72 divided by 6. It takes 12 years to double your money.
Yes.
Maybe. And
I
here's,
wish.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Here's an example. If you look at the other thing that you've heard is there's never been like a 10-year period in the stock market that's had a negative return.
Mm-hmm.
It's always had a positive return.
Again, sequence of returns.
There's so many little subtleties to this.
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at the S&P 500, guys. As you look at this on the screen.
So if you were investing in the S&P 500,
Yeah. And what sequence of return means, this is kind of luck of the draw. We don't know how this is going to play out. This is why you want to have more of a comprehensive plan, not just one targeted on I need a rate of return.
exactly.
Because sometimes it might not work out the way you want.
Because when you have a comprehensive plan, then you also have other things in your whole plan,
Right.
and then you have a backup to your backup to your backup.
Yeah.
So you're good. Like if this only makes 3%, or maybe it makes a negative, you've got another thing that is doing something better. So that's why it's important to have several things going at one time.
Yeah, because it kind of shores everything up.
Sorry, interrupted you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because that's the concept we kind of want to get across. But between 2000 and 2010, and over here, you can see the actual returns that year.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3 years were horrific, -10, -13, -23. So let's say that you started investing, just had bad luck, and you started in the year 2000.
Right.
Well, at the end of that decade, with all the ups and downs, the average rate of return was 0.61%.
Right.
Kind of the average, well below that 6% target of
and
rule of 72.
Inflation's around 3%.
Yeah,
So what have you really done?
exactly. And the other thing, when you talk about investments, they always use, the industry will use average rate of return.
Mm-hmm.
And you know as well as I do, Gayle, you can average anything and make it look good.
Right.
You can actually lose money with a 20% average return,
That's right.
depending on how the math plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So as best as possible, you're looking at actual return.
Right.
If I started with $1, how much is it worth?
That's right.
And guys, this is for those of you that might be listening, when you look at this graphic, this does take into account what's called dollar cost averaging, and you are putting money over time
Yes.
and catching the DOPs and
Yes.
the gains and all this other stuff. But the most important right here is an actual rate of return over that decade was a minus 1.41%.
Right.
So your $1 was worth 86 cents. Now, in this situation, did the rule of 72 apply?
No. And did the 10-year, I'm going to, in a no 10-year period, is there a negative?
Yeah,
or it's always positive.
Yeah, these things, we don't know what's going to happen.
So basically, the world's changed.
Mm-hmm. But if you just take a look, and if I change the dynamic and said, okay, let me start in the year 2009,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went all the way to 2019, well, wow, look at that.
Yep.
Now you've got a 12% return.
Right.
Complete luck of the draw. So the idea of these financial rules of thumb is they're good principles, but
just know it's not.
Yeah,
it's not dogma. That's not.
Yeah,
You know.
it's not locked in because
Right.
there's so many other dynamics that can affect
Which
this
is
stuff.
why you need to work with a financial advisor.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone sits down with us, that's why the first thing we do is look at their entire picture,
Mm-hmm.
break everything down,
Right.
kind of like just taking a diagnosis
That's right.
to see what goes where, how it's played out, understanding how people think, how you think personally,
Exactly.
and how those kind of plans can adapt to you. So, Fred, I hope that helped you, that it's a good concept and principle. It's good for, understanding fundamentally you do have to pay yourself and save over time. And
if you want to push to try to get 6% every year, then you would.
It's possible. Yeah. We could see, but it could also go the other way.
Right. It could. But, in your head, you can say, hey, if I get 6% every year, I know.
Then it's going to be okay.
Right. So that's, in that way, absolutely.
Yeah. And then that takes into account, does the stock market ever go down?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when somebody says average, like I've got an average of 5% in my, my IRA or my Roth IRA or whatever account.
Right.
Does that mean that they have more money than they did the year before?
Not necessarily.
Why is that?
Well, when you look at here's an example also, very simplistically, on the average.
Right.
Let's say I have $100 and I lose half of it.
Okay. So 50% loss.
I had a 50% loss.
Okay.
So now that means I've got $50 left over.
Yes.
And then you would generally ask, okay, well, what rate of return do I need just to get back to where I was?
Right.
And it's not 50%. You need to double your money to get back 100%. To where you need 100% return.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why sometimes these losses, you need more of a return to get back to where you were.
Okay.
So if you're focused just on one basic tank to pull this off, that's why it can get very challenging sometimes on the financial plan, which is why you have to have a lot of little pieces moving around.
So
now,
you're saying it's important to see actual numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see, when you get a statement from whatever company you're with, and your IRA or your 457 or 403B is with, and it says you've averaged 5% return.
Right.
Then I think most people think, oh, I got 5%, but really that's not true. You need to know what an actual number. Work with actuals, not averages.
When you're trying to figure those out.
Because you actually could have lost money, but you could have averaged 5%.
And then putting that in context with your overall plan, because let's say your investment side didn't work, and some plans aren't going to work. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
You try and put these positions in. Politicians are changing the rules left and right on what's.
Right.
What returns can happen.
Depending on the sequence of returns of when you actually started your investments, so you could have been in a down year or, whatever.
And we talked about this stuff in the very beginning when we were talking about, volatility.
Right.
That if something doesn't perform as you would hope within your financial world, did it destroy everything or was it a little bit of setback? Maybe something else did well.
Okay.
So it balances all out when you put all these pieces together. And that's kind of an understanding of putting your financial world in context so that it's not so damaging.
Right.
As we kind of go down and move forward. But Fred, that was a great question. And, that's one of the basic concepts of see, we gave you the applause. That was good.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking that. And that's the only thing that I would caution against is looking at that rule of 72 is saying, okay, I put this money aside, guaranteed, no matter what, 12 years later, my money's doubled.
Right. That's right.
You could get super lucky and the market just is static and you double your money in 5 years too. Just might not go the other way.
So what about I'll be in a lower tax bracket when I retire?
The lower tax bracket. Okay. So that, when you look at the lower tax brackets, that can happen.
Yeah, it can.
It's not guaranteed to happen, but one of the things that I always caution against is, remember, your number one enemy when you retire, I don't care who's in office, and I will say this over and over again, presidents, congressmen, senators, world leaders will change.
That's true.
Okay? But inflation will be a constant.
At around 3%?
Around 3%. And if you notice, you're going to need more and more money coming out of your accounts to maintain the same buying power.
Mm-hmm.
But do you notice that the tax brackets don't get adjusted for inflation?
No, they don't. They stay.
You could actually grow yourself into a larger tax bracket.
That's right.
So
because
that's
you have to spend more because of inflation.
Yeah. So don't just go, again, rule of thumb, I'm going to be a lower tax bracket and that's it. And, that's all that's going to happen.
We should show, like, if you're spending $60,000 a year, like, what does that look like with inflation 10 years from now?
Yeah, we could show that, actually. When we look at that, I don't know how much time we have on that one, because I have to bring that up. But we could probably address it a little bit on maybe.
Well, we can do it real quick.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well,
You want to get graphic again?
yeah, I can. I can see what I can do. Let me see if I can bring up a sheet that shows that. But hold on here. I can find that.
Sorry, I threw him a curveball.
Yeah, you did. You threw me a curveball.
He had to find it real quick.
Sorry
about
normally what can happen.
That's what happens when you're married.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw curveballs.
Yeah. That's not what he was thinking.
I know.
No. So,
I just want y'all to know that JP's in the background
Yeah,
he is just laughing.
He's just
like
laughing
he's on the floor. I think he's crying because he's laughing so hard.
Tears.
I'm going to be
rolling down both sides of my face.
Probably because I said balls.
Yeah.
Curveballs, and then trying to find it.
Yeah, and
he was trying to find it.
Right now, guys,
His mind is in the gutter.
Whose? Not mine.
I'm going to spend.
Ho.
I'm going to spend a lot of time.
Are you ready for the graphic?
No, I'm struggling on how to find it.
See, I told you I threw a curveball.
It is morning, so I got to take
Can't
my time.
find it.
Oh.
So here we go.
I'm out.
All right. Yeah.
And I'm out.
You sure you want to play on this end of the pool? All right. So here's what Gayle was trying to get over here. And there's a lot of columns and spreadsheets here and stuff like that. And what really matters is this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The desired lifetime style funding.
And what this really is, this is a software that we'll use in our office. And we really like using it because it takes a lot of the guesswork out, because when we look at financial plans for families, there's a lot of things we got to take into account.
Right.
We got to take into account taxes, inflation, stock market volatility, how Social Security will fit, what happens if a spouse passes away.
And this spreadsheet does all of it.
It does all of it.
Right.
And so
what returns you're getting in your investments, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
even
just
fees in the
just to
investment.
illustrate the inflation,
right? Because fundamentally, what a family cares about, is how much money's in my pocket to pay my bills.
That's right.
And all these things are just big what if questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look, and this is why inflation is always your enemy. If you have, let's say you needed $5,000 a month after taxes, which is $60,000 a year.
Correct.
And this is what Gayle was talking about.
Why is it so important for you to know how much you're spending per month? In
10 years, at just a 3% inflation rate, I don't need $60,000 coming in my coffers now. I need $78,000 a year coming in.
To spend the same as what $60,000 is today.
Yeah, to have the same buying power.
Mm-hmm.
15 years from now, I need almost $91,000 a year coming in the household.
Just same buying power as $60,000 today, which is a lot of people are like, wow, that's crazy.
Now, here's where it gets ridiculous. 25 years from now,
right?
I need $121,000 coming in to have the same buying power.
Mm.
So can you grow yourself into a bigger tax bracket?
Yes, you can.
Yep.
And there's not that many tax brackets.
No, it's interesting. That goes back to just kind of understanding these things and seeing, when I talked about congressmen, senators, presidents, world leaders, those things can change, but inflation is a constant.
That's right.
But who's in charge of the tax code?
Not me.
Nope, not any of us watching. It's the congressmen, the senators, and the president.
That's right.
So depending on what philosophy is in office at any given time can change the brackets also. Mm-hmm. And so just again, it's a good concept.
Yes.
To say I'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, but
I think that also came when how many tax brackets there used to be, like 40 something, and I mean, I think that's where that
back
rule of thumb came from.
It actually did. Thanks for reminding me. It was back in the 70s. I think there was like 42 tax brackets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not exaggerating that. It was a tremendous number of tax brackets in the early 70s. So Of course, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. You'd blow your nose and switch tax brackets. But one of the things that they did is that as they come up with new plans,
right?
in the whoever's in charge says, I want to lower taxes. Well, for everything that you want to receive, you're going to have to give up something.
Yes.
And in this case, the first major tax reduction would have been in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And how did they compensate? Well, they took away all the deductions that normally were available.
Right.
When
because
there were
they
more
used to be able to, deduct your dry cleaning.
Yeah.
Interest on credit cards.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of things you used to be
all
able to.
All kinds of stuff. So there might have been a tremendous number of tax brackets, but there was also a lot of deductions.
Mm-hmm.
As they lowered and made smaller and smaller tax brackets, or fewer of them,
correct,
they took away some of the deductions. So there's less wiggle room as you go through. And that's why when you look at this in financial planning, you got to take these taxes into account. So just to say, point blank, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket,
that may not be the case.
It may not be the case, so it's better
or
to be
maybe
prepared
it will
for
be
that.
at the case at the very beginning, but then as you go, you'll get into a larger tax bracket. So basically what we're trying to say is make sure you plan properly. Do the planning from that day that you're seeing the advisor,
right,
all the way to age 100. You may not live to 100. You may
right.
live past 100, but at least do the planning so that you know.
Oh, and before we leave this topic, the most important thing, speaking of living to 100,
mm-hmm.
Married, filing jointly compared to single.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's a big one.
It's huge.
I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, you and your spouse enter retirement filing taxes married.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse actually goes to a much higher tax bracket because now
which I think
single.
I think that's terrible.
It's actually very terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You could be like paying an effective tax rate of 5%
right.
when you're married, just to make the math easy, but we really see it this way.
You also lose one Social Security income
yep.
if you're married, and
so you've lost the income stream.
Right.
Yeah.
The higher Social Security check stays, but the other one goes away when one passes away. So
mm-hmm.
you have to plan for all these things, or you could be in trouble.
Yeah, and that's all the
you
things
might be
that we
moving
look
in
at.
with your kids.
It's possible. I mean, you hope that doesn't happen, but it could happen.
Yep.
And then the tax rate for the surviving spouse maybe went from 5 to 10%.
Yes.
So they've lost.
It really is it's a huge increase.
It's very huge. So
we have to say huge.
Yeah, but that's really shocking when we get people in the office and we start showing that. They're like, they can't believe.
No, I know.
So look at all the little things that we talked about with regarding taxes, and and
things that like inadvertently erode at you that you're not even aware of. Like
mm-hmm.
you might have a feeling,
yeah,
but it's there, and like when you actually see it and it's tangible,
yeah,
it makes you realize, oh, okay, well, I need to be aware of this, or maybe pull back on my lifestyle a little bit, or maybe I'm good and I can spend more. I mean, so these are really important things to check out.
I would agree. So look at that one basic question. I'll be a lower tax bracket in retirement, and look at the things that we covered.
Right.
Okay. 1, inflation.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually grow your way into a higher tax bracket.
Right.
2, politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Will they change the tax code? More than
Probably.
likely.
Yeah.
Some will want to reduce.
Depends on who's in office.
Some will want to move it up.
Right.
And then 3, especially as we look about longevity and taking about in retirement, and you're married,
mm-hmm.
one person passing away.
That's right.
So there's a lot in there, and that's actually was a very good question to ask, so that people now understand why you need to break all these things out, and to understand how am I still okay,
right,
in the event that these taxes do change.
That's right. So the article that I read recently with the 54% tax that was actually proposed by lawmakers.
Right.
If anybody guessed, I'm sure they guessed right, because it's California.
Oh, my old stomping ground.
Yeah, that's where you lived for a long time. You were stationed there in the Navy.
I was, and decided to live there
mm-hmm.
for many, many years.
What scares me about that is usually things start in California and then they kind of move throughout the whole nation.
Exactly.
And that better stop. We need to stop that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about with, who's in charge of the tax laws.
Mm-hmm.
And some parties want to reduce, some parties want to gain. What you sit on politically, I really don't care, because you still have to play the game that's being played.
That's right.
So if that does happen, we might have more people moving from these other states.
From California.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have a lot of people moving here to Texas from California.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And so, but that's the thing, is these tax codes. And I felt it when I lived there many years ago, because it was still, you got nickeled and dimed to death between the state, federal, city, municipalities,
right?
And all those taxes start adding up. You had a very good income, which would be acceptable good in another state, but because so much wasn't left over for
That's
you,
right.
your lifestyle obviously was affected.
Right.
But it just happens.
And houses cost a lot more money there than they do here.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. But
Why is that?
The ocean.
Because it's near the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean. And, I lived in San Diego, which is a lot different than Los Angeles. Los Angeles was, more hustle and bustle. And, I could actually get paid less living in San Diego for the same job that I would get paid more in Los Angeles. Same exact job, and I get paid less living because I wanted to live in San Diego. And they say, well, that's the cost of living here.
So explain then why the houses are so expensive in Fresno. Because that's not by the ocean.
No, but when you start looking at that, now you have, how can I say this? With Fresno, yeah, Fresno.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean,
the view's a little different.
You can
there
watch
in Fresno.
the vineyards grow.
Yeah, and you just hit it. What is the surrounding land? And Silicon Valley, when that kicked in, that started this big influx, of more and more money, people's salaries. But if you go into the Inland Empire of California, further away from that zone, you don't have those housing crunches as much anymore. So it's all demographic. And you're seeing this a lot in Austin, because people are coming in that have a lot of money buying houses. So which supply and demand, it pushes the value of the homes up and kind of prices a lot of the average person out.
It almost feels like we're in a bubble here in North Texas.
We are.
In a way.
I mean, it really
think
does,
we are.
right?
In a way.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked at housing prices, but
I know.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked what used to be $200,000 is $450,000.
Yes.
And that's
I would agree.
And one of the things that I did tell, because I know we're running short on time, we might talk about this at a later episode. This is exactly what I saw in California about 15 years ago. And I have told Gayle privately, I said, I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. And then you started ending up with one-bedroom apartments that cost $3,000 a month. But it's just that supply and demand pushing it up. But I hope those, in today's show, I hope we answered some questions and people learned some things.
Absolutely.
I hope they laughed. I know I did.
So next show, we're going to have a special guest. So hopefully you guys can be part of that with us. Happy Halloween for this weekend. Y'all be careful.
Right. Happy Halloween.
Don't let any goblins get you, like JP. He always says these crazy things.
I do.
And then if you'll put your hands together and clap for Brandon Hager for his sponsorship.
That's right.
If you need to have his Medicare help, you can contact him at 940-781-0359.
And again, if Gayle, if everyone wants to contact us,
214-778-5645.
that's 214-778-5645.
Or Gayle, Gayle, at interlinkfinancial.com. My Texan came out.
That's right. Gayle, Gayle at interlink with a C, financial.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you
next
soon.
week. Goblins.
Ghouls. No, it's Kukui.
No, it's the Coochie Man.
No, it's not the Coochie Man. Mexican, it's Kukui.
It's not. You always say, what you said, Kukui?
I'll teach you later.
Oh, please teach me.
I will.
Okay.
Don't let the Kukui get you. Happy Halloween.
Kukui.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Mexican scary boogeyman.
That's the boogeyman.
I can never think of it, so I always go the Coochie Man.
No, don't. It's not the Coochie Man. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. Just.
Our monitor died. That's the Ghost and Goblins. Oh, there we go. Yay.
It was definitely your Halloween ghouls and goblins. Yeah, good job.
Whatever those
However, we want to make sure that you understand advisory services are offered by Interlinc Financial Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Texas. Insurance products and services are offered through Texas Family Insurance, Inc., an affiliated company right here on the JP, Kathy, and the Crew Network. We will see you next Thursday for Moneylinc, brought to you by Interlinc Financial. Have a blessed weekend, everybody.
Don't let the cuckoo get you.
There, you got it.